Good morning, UUSS. Thank you for being here amidst CIM. If you would rise in body or spirit and join in singing that morning has broken.
Good morning. Welcome to our Sunday service. Thank you for joining us on this International Marathon Sunday. Whether you are here with us on Zoom or here in person, we're glad you're here. I am Jenni Gouine, today's worship associate. Reverend Lucy is our preacher today, and our choir will be singing. The topic of the service is Our Moon. Reverend Roger is attending the service on Zoom today because he has COVID and is at home, and we all wish him well. If you are new to UUSS, we extend a special welcome. Please fill out a newcomer's card, either using the link on our website or at the welcome table after the service so we can connect with you. Our weekly message comes to you by email every Friday, and you can find previous ones on the website, where you can also find an email detailing all of our holiday happenings this month, including an afternoon open house hosted by ministers and staff on December 18th. After the service today is our monthly newcomers orientation with a tour of the campus. Rich Howard will meet you at the welcome table at 11:45. Rich, would you rise?
I think he's not, well, there he is.
Childcare is available during the orientation, and it lasts an hour. If you'd like to follow the music and other parts of the order of the service, you may click the link in our Zoom chat or look on our website. The blue sheet calendar includes upcoming activities. Can someone wave a blue sheet? Excellent. Some of them might be white, yes. And the blue sheet is also online. Here are just a few highlights. Today, a member of the nominating committee would like to talk with you about leadership opportunities for 2025 and beyond at UUSS. Stop by their table in the welcome hall. Next Saturday evening, the young adult group is hosting its monthly games night in classroom 7-8 at 5 p.m. Reverend Roger is hosting 2 programs this week and wants you to know they will be online only. The second Tuesday forum starts this Tuesday, and Reverend Roger's topic is Unitarian Origins of Modern Traditions of Christmas. It's at 7 p.m. His mindfulness meditation session is this Wednesday at 6 p.m. Everyone is welcome at either session, and you can log in at uuss.org/online. Now, please check your cell phone to be sure it's on silent mode and that all alarms are off so that we can be more mindful in the service. If a neighbor's device goes off during the service, please be kind and help them in solving the problem. We hope you will join us after the service for coffee and conversation on the patio and visit the connections table in the welcome hall. If you are attending by Zoom, after the service, we have 22 minutes of conversation in a smaller breakout room, and Reverend Roger will participate in the breakout session. Now, let us receive the music for centering.
Good morning. Good morning, all of you on Zoom. I bet there's more of you than usual this morning. We're glad you're here. Good morning, Roger. I hope you're feeling better. Leanna is our chalice lighter this morning. Come on up. Our chalice lighting words come from the Reverend Linda Barnes. Suspended between all that was and all that might be, we struggle to find this very moment, to live this very moment. Let us sit together for a moment. Let us savor this moment. Let us relish this time between time when past meets future. Let us harbor a faith that reminds us that right now, right here, is enough. We light this chalice for the sacred time in between.
Now is the time I'd like to invite all those involved in RE to gradually make your way out to the welcome hall to continue your service as we lead you in singing your song. Doom, 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 doom. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other
And lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other.
and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with
How's this? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So I'm seeing people trickle in. Extra love to those trickling in, because I know it was hard to get here this morning, and we appreciate very much everyone's effort to be here. One of the ways that we create, sustain, and build our community is by sharing our joys and sorrows with each other every Sunday morning. We heard on the internet where you can, right through the weekly message, you can send us a note, send the ministers a note about something you want to have shared. And Susan Zurenberg let us know that she had a hip replacement on December 4th and that she would appreciate healing thoughts. I also want to let you know that our member Aggie Vauder let us know that she is entering hospice care. 2 months ago, she moved to an assisted living facility in Montana to be near her daughters. We send our gratitude, love, and wishes for comfort and peace to you, Aggie. And we extend our condolences to other members who've let the ministers know about losses in their family or challenges in their life. So on this day, I have to name that the dictator of Syria has fallen and the civil war presumably has ended. I think 13 years, millions of lives, millions of displaced people, many in our community here. And I want to just say what an important practice it is to find joy in that moment of liberation. We know there will be challenges for that country, but people are already returning. The borders with Syria are flooded with refugees returning on the very day that it happened. So the love for their country is so strong. And let's let that infuse us. Let's let that energy and that love and joy be with us and think of them and the path forward and the reuniting of so many people displaced and the mutual grieving of all the lives lost. So as Universalists, we are Unitarian Universalists, and our Universalist tradition comes out of the idea that God is a saving God, a loving God, that no God would send anyone to hell, that all are saved. And how that has transformed through the centuries is the idea of this all-encompassing love that holds us all, is there for us. We create it, we're with it. It's the interdependent web, this love that holds the interdependent web together. So in the spirit of having spiritual practices that don't involve words and praying together in ways that don't involve words, we're going to do our embodied prayer this morning. And we're going to do it remembering that love, that divine love, that energy and commitment of love that holds us all. So let me walk you through our practice, and then we'll do it 3 times in silence. You can do it with me the first time as well. We start in a prayer pose, centering ourselves. And then we bring our hands down, holding the love in our own hearts, holding our love for this world, for all beings, our love for possibility, our love for justice, whatever that means to you. And then we extend that love out into the world. Do this however is comfortable for your own body. Extend that love out, offering it. Here is the love that I have. And then we lift our arms up higher, drawing in that greater love of interconnection, that beautiful love that is there for us, and bringing all that love back down into our heart, letting it nurture us and sustain us so that we may offer love to our hurting world. Let us begin. Amen. Let us take some time now for the silent prayers in our own hearts.
There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all I rest. There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all I rest. This love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all we rest in this love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all we rest in this love. We rest in this love. We rest in this
Let's talk about the moon. This reading comes from the introduction of the book Our Moon by Rebecca Boyle, which was a tremendous inspiration and resource for me for this service. The moon has shaped our rulers and their conquests since civilization's earliest days. But its power over us is far more ancient than even our conflicts. Its influence goes back to the sulfurous origins of this planet and everything that crawls, flaps, swims, or strains skyward on its surface. The moon guides us all from its vaulted position above us, but it is not apart from us, not least because it is actually a part of Earth. It was sheared from Earth when the planet was still freshly baked, and its elliptical orbit does not technically circle Earth, at least not in the way you might think. Instead, the Earth and the moon orbit each other, pivoting around a combined center of gravity that guides them both and shapes their shared history. Today, the moon directs migrations, reproduction, the movements of leaves of plants, and possibly the very blood in our veins. The moon conducts the symphony of life on Earth, from the people who wage war on one another to the coral polyps that built the reefs. It has guided evolution since the moment of life's first stirrings, which occurred either inside deep ocean vents or in warm little pools at the water's edge, both of which derive nutrients through the moon's tides. The moon makes Earth unique, certainly in our solar system and possibly in the broader cosmos. It made us who we are in ways that scientists are just beginning to understand, from our physiology to our psychology. It taught us how to tell time, which we use to impose order on the world. The moon inspired the human projects of religion, philosophy, science, and discovery. This is a book about time, life on Earth, human civilization, our place in the universe, and how the moon made that all possible. I hope this book changes your understanding of all these things, and I hope it changes the way you see the moon, this partner world that has always been with you, and which I hope you notice anew the next time you go outside at night.
Moon and Water by Mary Oliver. I wake and spend the last hours of darkness with no one but the moon. She listens to my complaints like the good companion she is and comforts me surely with her light. But she, like everyone, has her own life. So finally, I understand that she has turned away, is no longer listening. She wants me to refold myself into my own life, and bending close, as we all dream of doing, she rose with her white arms through the dark water which she adores.
It's likely, if you were born before the early 1960s, that you remember the moon landing. July 20th, 1969, when Neil Armstrong stepped out of that spacecraft and onto the moon's surface. Millions of people watched this live on TV, all crowded around the set. People didn't have big TVs in those days. As a child, I didn't give the moon a lot of attention. Maybe I appreciated its light when I was coming home after dark. But for that moment in history, we were all focused on the lunar surface. It seemed so surreal that they were actually on the moon that I can understand why some people think the whole thing was a hoax. But of course, it wasn't. We know that it really happened because they brought back boxes of moon rocks, dust and rocks that revealed some great mysteries. Throughout the centuries, philosophers and scientists have hypothesized as to the origin of the moon. We are unique in the solar system in having one moon in such close relationship to the home planet. But it wasn't until we had pieces of moon to actually analyze that we could begin to unravel and reveal the origins of the moon. It was thought that the moon had floated in or was space rubble in the universe and got captured in Earth's orbit. But when we had pieces of the moon to analyze, it was revealed that the moon and the Earth are identical. They're isotopes. Their DNA, their geological DNA, is the same. Scientists, and the lead scientist is at UC Davis, yay, concluded that the moon and the Earth were formed at the same time as a result of a collision between two celestial bodies, a collision that was so fast and so hot that they spun together, melted together, and spun off the moon and spun off the Earth. As a result, the moon is not simply a satellite orbiting the Earth. The moon and the Earth share an orbit, each pivoting around a combined center of gravity. This shared gravitational field stabilizes the Earth's tilt and actually allows for the consistency of our seasons. Without the moon, it would be one season all year long. The moon affects the Earth in many ways. Anyone who has lived or spent time near the ocean is aware of the tidal cycles. This is the orbital dance of the Earth and the moon's gravity, the gravitational pull of the moon, actually creates the tides by causing the ocean to bulge on the side that is closest to the moon and retreat on the side that's farthest from the moon. Of course, the tides are higher and lower based upon how close the moon is to the Earth. The spring tides, the highest possible lowest and highest tides, occur when the Earth, moon, and sun are aligned, and when this happens at a time of a new moon or a full moon. In this country, we learned a painful lesson about these extremely high and low tides in World War II, when Allies were preparing for a battle in the South Pacific. The boats needed at least 4 feet of water to float over the coral reef at this particular atoll. And all the masters of the war calculated the tides very carefully, but they didn't consider that the moon was in its farthest distance from the Earth. And the tide that was supposed to be high enough to have 4 feet of water didn't rise at all, leading to many casualties. I remember visiting the Bay of Fundy in New Brunswick, which has the highest tides in the world. You can imagine that people that live there pay significant attention to the tides. In the town where a lot of places have a clock, they have a tide schedule that is you could see clearly. The tides there can rise as high as 50 feet. And near the beaches, they have an alarm system that goes off to tell you when you have to leave in order to not be swept up in these 50-foot tides. So these high tides have been credited with setting up conditions for life on our Earth. It all started in the tide pools, those places that are both land and sea. Early on in the time of our Earth and Moon, they were a lot closer together than they are now, and the tides were much higher and much lower. Vast areas on the edges of the sea spent time underwater and out of water, depending upon the cycle of the moon. And it's in these tide pools that new life fermented, where sea creatures evolved to breathe, where plants first developed their roots going into the ground. And over millions of years of evolution, these tide pool generatives became the plants and animals of our world today, all because of the tides. Given everything that had to fall into place for this to happen, for life to happen, it could be considered a miracle that the moon brought life on Earth into being. Of course, the warmth of the sun and the light of the sun played a part in this story, but the sun doesn't really contribute much to the tides. The moon is the star. The moon made it happen, uniquely so. There are other planets that have moons, that have tides, but no other planet shares that gravitational field between the Earth and the moon. And it's that relationship that created the condition for life. And that, indeed, is a miracle.
Generosity is a spiritual practice. This congregation has a practice of giving away half of every Sunday's offering to an organization that is working to make a difference in the world. Our community partner for the month of December is Family Promise. The Family Promise program assists local communities to coordinate their compassion to address the root causes of family homelessness. They address the issue holistically, providing shelter and case management, as well as support once families have secured housing to ensure they remain independent. Families come to them in crisis, and Family Promise helps rebuild their lives with new skills and ongoing support. Thank you for your generosity to UUSS and our community partner. This morning's offering will now be given and received. As our ushers come forward, please join me. May generosity bless our world, and may gratitude nourish our spirits.
There are so many myths and stories about the moon. And these sort of give us a sense of how important the moon was to primitive peoples, to early civilizations. And one very common story is about something happening to the moon. So this story originates from the Tlingit people indigenous to the Northwest. At night, the people were afraid. They were cold and lived in near darkness, for the great chief owned the moon. It was his secret treasure kept hidden in a box. No one else was permitted to see it. Raven knew that he must free the moon. The stars glittering above didn't give enough light for the people to see the world around them. And so he flew to the village of the chief of the sky. And when he landed on the ground, he turned himself into the shape of the chief's grandson. Disguised in this way, Raven went to the chief's house to sleep. For a while, Raven pretended to sleep. But after a few hours, he awoke and began to wail as if in agony. His mother, the chief's daughter, ran to his side and stroked his hair. "My child, what is wrong?" "I was dreaming, mother," said the boy. "I dreamt I heard a roar like thunder and wind. I dreamt the world was ending." "Calm yourself, my child." Still the raven moaned and cried. "Dear son," she said, "tell me what will comfort you. I will give you anything you wish." At this, the raven stopped crying and laid back on his bed. "Mother," he said, looking into her eyes, "the only thing that will bring me happiness is the moon. I want to play with it. I wish my grandfather would give me his box. The light of the moon is the only comfort I can imagine." So the chief's daughter went at once to her father. "Please, father, my child is so unhappy. He wants you to allow him to play with the moon." The great chief shook his head. "No one can play with my treasure," he said. "No one at all. It belongs to me and no one else." "But father," begged the chief's daughter, "your grandson cannot sleep. He says the only thing that will stop his tears is that to play with the moon." The chief began to soften. He could not bear the thought of his grandson's misery. "All right. My grandson can play with the moon, but my guards will make sure to see that it is not lost or ruined." The next morning, the guards stood over the boy as he took out the box that hid the moon. As he lifted the lid, brilliant light flashed out, and soon the boy began to taunt the guards, for you see, Raven had a plan. "None of you is strong enough to throw the moon," he said. "You think you are strong, but the moon is stronger than any of you. The moon is the strongest in the world." The guards grumbled. "We are as strong as we must be," they said. "Prove it," said the boy. "We will hold a contest," said the guards. "We will prove that we are strong." And so the first guard tossed the moon up in the sky. It spun and flashed and flew high above the treetops, and then it plunged back down again and landed in the boy's arms. Next, another tried, then still another, but each time the moon fell back down. At last, the strongest guard stepped forward. "Watch," he said, and with a mighty toss, he tossed the moon as high as he was able. Up and up and up it flew, higher and higher, and at last it rose so high that Raven knew it would never return. He pretended to cry. "Oh, the moon is lost!" But in truth, Raven was glad, for now the moon was high above the earth, spinning round and round, and he knew that would always be there to light the earth and guide the tides. Down below on earth, beneath the light of the new moon, the people danced for joy. For the first time, they could see the trees, the wild animals, the stones and rocks, the mountaintops, the streams, the creeks, the rivers.
When I was 36, I joined the Peace Corps. I had recently left a long-term abusive relationship, and I needed a big life change. I was assigned to be a teacher trainer in the Republic of Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is a small Muslim, formerly Soviet country bordered by Russia, Iran, Turkey, Armenia, Georgia, and the Caspian Sea. I knew almost nothing about Azerbaijan, but I was excited to begin my adventure. My excitement soon waned as I began language and culture lessons. The Azerbaijani language is very different than English, and my brain couldn't quite grasp the structure. The culture wasn't much easier. It seemed I was constantly making social errors, and my very existence as an unmarried foreign woman in her 30s was highly unusual. In short, every waking moment was infused with awkwardness and challenge, and to top it off, I was very homesick. But the moon brought comfort. During my first winter in the country, I lived with a loving, generous family, and our town sat at the base of the Caucasus Mountains. One night, I got up and went outside to use the bathroom. I could see my breath as I walked outside across the small walled compound to the toilet room. I could see the fruit trees and the chickens and realized it was because a bright, full moon shone down on me. I looked up. The moon, the very same moon I had gazed at back home, the same moon my family and friends had gazed at 12 hours earlier in California, the same moon that humanity had been gazing at for millennia. I was in awe. I stood in the middle of the yard and told the moon how grateful I was for its steadfastness. I suddenly realized and deeply appreciated knowing that the moon I was looking at in that moment was the same moon I'd be seeing for the next 24 months in Azerbaijan and for the rest of my life, wherever I would be. Experiencing that moment of connection with the moon was just enough comfort to get me across that compound to the cold toilet room, back into my warm bed, and into the next morning where I faced another day of being the weird foreign lady who wore glasses and smiled too much. The moon and I shared more moments of connection during the rest of my Peace Corps tenure as I slowly learned to lean into the awkwardness, develop friendships with my Azerbaijani coworkers, and finally become a productive member of my community. When I returned to the States, I brought my moon friendship back with me, and now I have a nightly ritual of speaking to the moon. When I take our dogs outside for the final bathroom break of the day, I locate the moon through the trees, whatever slice I'm able to see, and express my gratitude for the moon's reliability and endurance. My ritual isn't fancy. I simply say, "Thank you, moon, for always being here for me." When it comes to celestial bodies, the sun gets more fanfare. But in my opinion, the sun is fickle and unreliable. The moon, however, is a constant friend.
Imagine yourself living about 10,000 years ago. You're a hunter-gatherer, rudimentary farmer, fisher person. You were very attuned to the seasons and the changing light. You had to be. At night, except for when the moon shone, it was very dark. You lived in a small family, extended family community. You can imagine for those people in that time, the moon and the sun were seen as sacred. We know this from what they left behind. Objects depicting deities of the moon and the sun, their stories and their legends, and different configurations of stones and pits, large and small. You heard one typical folk tale about the moon, Raven stealing the moon, a favorite theme. People, you can imagine, worrying that the moon would be lost. We create the stories about our fears and the heroes that save us from our fears. There's an ancient Celtic story about the buried moon, where the moon gets trapped in a bog and evildoers come and cover up the moon so that she can't be seen. And of course, the hero comes and frees the moon, who flies back up in the sky to the joy of all the people. Ancient people studied the moon's face and found many, many, many symbols there. I found a list of like 20 different stories. The frog in the moon, the rabbit in the moon, the donkey in the moon, projecting images onto the moon's face. I remember being told as a child you had two choices of the moon, the man in the moon and the rabbit in the moon. Apparently there were more. These express the importance of the light of the moon at night. The moon allowed nighttime activities and safety. It's easy to see how full moon ceremonies got started. You could plan your activities around the moon cycles. There have been discoveries of ancient bones with crescents marked into them, somebody keeping track of the cycles of the moon. So once humans figured out that we could track the moon, that it was consistent, that its stages were consistent, and we figured out how to mark those stages, we could start planning. This is a really big deal because planning and coordinating allows communities to form. It allows you to say, I'll see you for dinner at the next full moon. The 29-day cycle of the moon. The word moon itself is actually an Old English word for month. A reliable calendar gave humans a chance to set a schedule for ceremonies, feasts, harvests. They could mark the best time to plant or the time when the salmon would run. The notation of the moon cycles allowed early humans to organize and coordinate their efforts with the moon as their guide. There's one tribe in Scotland that created a series of 12 pits in the earth growing larger and then smaller, pits that aligned with the light of the moon at each stage of the 12 moons of the year. And like Stonehenge traces the sun, there are many standing stone circles in Scotland and Ireland that trace the movements of the moon. These ancient calendars can be traced to modern day. The Chinese, Hindu, Muslim, and Jewish calendars follow the moon cycles rather than the sun cycles. And of course, women have their own internal lunar calendar with the menstrual cycle averaging 29 days. Some scholars believe that in more ancient times, before there was so much light pollution, women's cycles were synced to the moon's cycles. The moon plays a role in the fertility for other plants and animals as well. The corals synchronize the release of their eggs and sperm to the timing of the full moon. All the corals must synchronize this release in order to have success at reproduction. They need a lot going on, and the moonlight provides the signal. They have little sensors for luminescence, and they all time it at the same time. But, as we well know, it's not just coral whose romance is affected by the moon. I found this article I read very amusing. It said that scientists can't prove that the moon really has any effect on humans, good or bad. I would say that the scientists don't have the right instruments to measure the effect on humans. Tell that to the 1,000 or so songs about the moon and romance. Those did not arise in a vacuum. When I started thinking about this part of the sermon, the first thing that came to me was, when the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. Tell that to the ER doctors who brace themselves for the full moon because they know there will be an overflow of patients, and an overflow of patients who've had violent experiences. The folktale of the werewolf didn't come out of nowhere. So if the moon affects the earth, the tides, reproductive cycles, formation of life, I think maybe it affects us all in some ways. As the author of the book Our Moon said in the reading, the moon made us who we are in ways that scientists are just beginning to understand from our physiology and our psychology, and it continues to do so. And now with our technology, we are on the cusp of a time when our relationship to the moon will change again. There are companies already gearing up to mine the moon, for it has minerals that we need in our technology, minerals that are now in short supply on Earth. We need those minerals, electric cars, batteries, we need them to reduce our carbon footprint. But I am worried that my beautiful, precious moon will be seen as another depletable resource. I am worried about a time when the rabbit or crow or whatever images that humans have projected on the face of the moon will be replaced with mining scars. But why not? The moon is just a big rock in the sky. I hope you've come away from our service this morning with an appreciation that the moon is so much more than a big rock in the sky. Like Jenni, the moon is my companion, my anchor, my beacon of connection. I follow the cycles of the moon, though I am never sure where and when she will appear in the sky. I know I could find an app that would help me track all those details, but it would take away my surprise and my joy on those nights or those mornings when I look up and see her shining face smiling down, telling me that she is holding us steady and that everything will be all right.
With earth and moon in relationship, let us sing For the Earth Forever Turning.
as we prepare to extinguish the chalice, please join in speaking our shared intention. We extinguish this flame, but we carry the light, love, and commitment of this gathering into the days to come.
Let's reach out to each other. Let's reach out to our community, to our world. Let's reach out to our beautiful earth and our wonderful moon. December 15th is the next full moon. Mark your calendars. Be out there. And may the beautiful light of the moon shine on you, open your heart, anchor you, let you know there is love and light there for you in our beautiful interconnected world. So may it be.